Hi, it's Tuesday morning, it is lunchtime, and I just stopped and made myself a cup of tea, and I made a couple of wraps. This one is sitting, keeping warm, I hope, for my husband. I'll insert a picture to show you how everything I put inside it. It's grated carrot, feta cheese, hummus, some of my sauerkraut, and this is mine, which I'm eating a half with some leftover turkey rice noodle soup. And so that's going to be my lunch today. And I'm just about to sit down and eat it. And what I got out yesterday was this book, which was a boiled book that I did a couple of years ago, Boiled Pages book. It's watercolor paper, and it was pressed with pressed flowers in between it. And then you put it in a pot of water. I know there was a mordant in there, but I can't quite remember what it was. And so I got it out, and what I've been doing is just adding a little bit of coloring to some of the pages. Hi, I'm in my studio today. Happy Easter weekend, those who celebrate. And I just thought I'd show you a little project that I just started working on again. This poor lady cow has been sitting around for a couple years in my unfinished pile of work. And actually, yesterday I finished it and cut it out. And so what I originally did was I fused interfacing to the back of a white cotton, and then I appliqued the cow to the cotton. And yesterday, and so I got it all appliqued, and then I set it aside, and I never touched it for a couple of years. So yesterday I did some quick free motion stitching around it, cut it all out, and got it out, and I had already had these background colors put away, and I think they're perfect because the original picture looked like this. So the colors they match perfectly. They're batiks, a couple of marbled batiks, and there's a slight pattern on this one. And so what I plan today is I've just roughly cut some strips, and these are meant to be the dandelions in the background. So all I'm going to do is, this is a piece of heavy muslin. I think I'm going to spray baste, once I've ironed all these little small pieces, I'm going to spray baste them and put them on and get them ready to, I'll refine the shapes and the stitching a little bit and get them all fused on, and then I will remove the cow. And once this is ready to be stitched, once everything is basted down, I'll take it to my sewing machine and just do some quick free motion stitching for the background and some flowers up in the front, and then I'll put the cow on and put some grass and a few dandelions around his feet, or her feet, and try to finish it up. And I don't want to do too much stitching in the background because it's I haven't done a lot of stitching on the cow. I want to keep it quite simple. So I just want to stitch pieces down in the background, add a little bit of free motion stitching of the dandelions in here, and then as they come to the front and get a little bit larger, I'll put a few dandelions around him, details of that. So that's what I'm up to today, and I'll check. I have to go back and forth to the iron, and then I have to get these pieces all spray basted. So once I do that and get a little further along, I'll probably check back in and show you what I'm doing. In the meantime, right now, what I did this morning, first thing when I got up, was mixed up a batch of hot cross buns, which I usually do every year, and I sort of decided I wasn't going to this year because it's just my husband and I, and they're very tempting for me. I have a hard time to leave them alone, and I need to stay away from so many carbs. But my mother always had them every year for Easter. She always made them, and this morning I woke up and I thought, I'm going to mix up a small batch. So that's what I did. They're raising right now, and I think I'll drop a few off to a friend before supper, so that'll help. Anyway, so they're raising, and in another hour or so I should be able to make those up into buns and And then I'm going to be here working in my studio today. So I'll check in with you later. Hi, good afternoon. I was working on this morning, and I came back. I have my had lunch and got the hot cross buns baked, and they're just out of the oven. And I have all the strips for this cow just basted down, and it's a piece of sort of a heavyweight muslin or duck cloth underneath. So this is approximately where the cow is going to go. And what I'm going to do now is take the cow off, and I'm going to actually turn it. And I've got my machine all threaded, and I've got it all set up for free motion embroidery. And I think I'm going to start approximately in the middle. Bring that up. And I'm just basically going to start stitching. I'm going to wear the gloves for this because it's a large piece and it's a little bit easier on the fingers if you have something to grip with. So I'm just basically going to start stitching. Now what I'm doing for this one is a lot of the times when I do pieces, I use a fusible applique, and so pieces are fairly well fused down and there's no movement. And since this is a large piece and it's just involving strips, I decided to try using just a spray based, can of spray based. So that's why I'm getting a little bit of movement, but this doesn't have to be perfect. It's going to be stitched on top of, and it's just meant to show layers of grass. So I'm just giving it a go. Oh, this one came off. I'll put it on after. And so that's all I'm really going to do this afternoon is I'm just going to be stitching them down. And once everything is stitched down, then I'm going to come back and I'm going to do some layers of stalks, dandelions, things like that. So for now, I'm just making sure that the main pieces get stitched down. So it's a bit of a slow process. It'll be more fun once everything is stitched down, because that's the part that I like. They're both free motion, but once everything is stitched down, I won't have to be so careful. And I also like to do the flowers and the stems and the grass stalks. And so I'll come in and do those later. So that's basically what I'm going to do, is I'm just going to keep stitching until all the pieces are attached. And then the next process will be to start stitching the flowers. And when that's all done, I can then add the cow back to the picture and stitch it down. But I'm going to wait until everything is pretty much finished, except I'll be doing a few little dandelion flowers at the cow's feet, and that'll be after the cow is put on as well. So that's what I'm going to do for the next little while. It's just stitch away at this, and then maybe I'll show you another piece of it later. Hi. This is not the very best of icing bags, but I remembered when I took it out that the one that I used to have tore the last time. I don't use it very often, but in fact the last couple of years that I made the hot cross buns, I simply just took a knife and put the icing on with that. But I thought I would drop a few of these off to a friend this afternoon, and I thought, well, I can't just put the icing on the messy way with a knife. So I got this out, and anyway, they turned out pretty good. I actually tried one of the smaller ones that didn't look as great, but I wanted to see what it was like, and they're really soft and fluffy. And it's not even the recipe that my mother usually used. It's just one that I picked up off the internet, because my mom's is a little bit different, and it actually made about 3 or 4 times as many buns. And so last night I was just looking. I can put a link to them. Pretty easy to make, but they're just made with a typical, like a bread, made with a regular yeast, mixed up, kneaded for 10 minutes. It went in the oven to raise, and then around lunchtime I took it out, made them into the buns, and then they raised for about 45 minutes after that, and they bake for about 12 to 15 minutes. So this is the most awkward bag because it's so long and narrow, and it's really hard to get the icing into it, and you get all sticky fingered. So I must make a note the next time I'm out somewhere and see one to pick one up, because I don't use it all that often. It's not something I do very much, but when you do, or when I do, you want it. You want one that's going to work well. And this one will do in a pinch, but it's very messy, as you can see. I'm really getting my hands into it here. I have to wash them off a little bit. Anyway, it'll do the trick. I wasn't going to make these this year, and then I decided last minute this morning. My problem is I love bread too much, so I try not to make it often, special occasion or something, and I thought, oh, if I have hot cross buns in the house, I'll just eat them. But it's a tradition, it's an Easter tradition, and it's only once a year. I mean, Christmas time, I barely make anything baked. I'm not even, like, I prefer these even more than Scotch cookies. I love these so much, especially when they're fresh. So hopefully I'll take some and give them away. And so I worked on the background for the cow a little while. Just like that. And there's not as much stitching on the left side. Well, I still have to stitch a little bit of the yellow on the left side. On the right, though, I've done most of the stitching. Stitched it down. So I'll do the same thing on the left. And when that's finished, I'll be ready to add a few little dandelions and to secure the cow. She's kind of cute. Also in progress on my design wall is this baby quilt, and I didn't even find a name for it, but it's a rope design, a twisted rope. And I still have a few more blocks to do it. I'm almost to the square stage, but I think I'll add a few more on the bottom to make it rectangular. So you'll have to kind of look carefully, but I think you can see the design. I'm pretty happy with it, and it's a very easy pattern to do. And almost to the point of being able to start sewing it together.